Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Terrifier 3. So, I think I should start by talking about the gore. I think of gore as kind of like an action sequence in a movie. It can be entertaining, it can serve a purpose, it can take a lot of skill and craft to create. I don't really see a problem with it in and of itself. Some people might enjoy it for questionable reasons, but that's not everybody. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that enjoy watching gore just as like a visceral experience. So I don't have a problem with gore, but I also I'm not like offended by it, but I'm also not. Um, I don't think that alone can carry a movie. Um, that's just not. I think a movie is a much can be a much more complete experience than that. Just like an action sequence, a movie just only action. Um, I wouldn't necessarily enjoy even if it was great, well done action. I think it can get tiresome. And I think Terrifier 3, kind of rides that line between being um, tiresome or excessive. But overall, I didn't have a problem with the gore. I think the gore was was good. It was obviously well done. But uh, I think towards the end I did get over it and I did get desensitized and it stopped having an impact on me. And but anyways, all that is to say that that's just one aspect of this movie to me. And what I'm gonna be talking about a lot of other things that I think are a problem with it, but are problems with the movie. But the gore itself, I'm I don't I'm not offended by it, but I'm also not gonna be impressed by it if that's all the movie has. I kind of see this movie as a bit of a one-trick pony, honestly. So, anyways, let's get in. I want to start talking about the narrative now. And yeah, I feel like this movie is much more of an exhibition than a narrative. It's just like this like it's just showing gore, and the story around it is kind of almost like an afterthought. Um, the plot really just kind of breaks up these set pieces, which I found pretty formulaic. The gore gets pretty formulaic, and the plot in between feels a lot like aimless filler to me. The drama is very blunt and stagnant. The protagonist doesn't show up until 20 minutes into the movie. She's a certain way. She kind of states how she is and then doesn't change. She just is that way. I mean, you can say that something happens at the end of the movie that sparks her to have more motivation, but I can't say that she grew or arced as a character. Um, there are no themes, I don't think. I mean, there's some they add a lot of religious iconography, and people can say it's about violence and about gore and blah blah blah, but I feel like that's kind of a stretch. To me, this movie is just a slasher movie, just about this protagonist waiting to be attacked, just about this slasher doing slasher things, and then they meet, and that's pretty much there is all there is to it. It feels pretty derivative and really pretty simplistic, very bare bones. So yeah, the dialogue is very forced. I mean, the dialogue just felt so artificial, like not natural at all. The characters are very paper thin. They just have these single traits, and they're just kind of announcing it. Uh, the exposition is very convoluted. I was surprised how much exposition there is for a movie like this. It's just a slasher. Well, why is there all this lore suddenly? I did not think that. I did not find that helpful. It's very contrived, a lot of contrivances, like characters just doing things so that the slasher can do the slasher things. There are a lot of excessive threads, a lot of characters that didn't need to be there. They're just there for slasher fodder. Some characters, there's a character that has so much time spent on them, seems so important, and then just dies off screen. There's no payoff for that. That could have completely been cut from the movie and made would have made it better. That whole character. And I do feel like some of the attempts at shock were kind of edge lordy. Like, I think shock. Again, I'm not offended by shock. I think shock can be very useful. But when you're just doing shock to shock, I'm not that impressed. I mean, you can say these things that you know you shouldn't say. You should depict these things. You can depict these things you know you shouldn't depict. Um, but I don't find that particularly clever. I mean, I guess there's a bit of boldness in choosing to show something that you know people might not like, but I'm not. I mean, I've seen movies that show extreme things that are very shocking, but you know they serve a purpose. There's more meat to them than just being shocking. So I can't say. I think sometimes I couldn't help but feel like the shock value was not only not working for me, but I also found it um, kind of distracting and a little bit a little bit too easy. So yeah. Anyways, the story is very incomplete. It doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have an end. It just kind of starts with things happening. I mean, it's tying up loose ends from the previous movie. But I think a movie should be its own story. Yeah, it can be related to the previous movie, set up the next movie, but it needs to have its own beginning. And I don't think this movie does that. And I also don't think it has an end because the character doesn't arc. There isn't really a conclusion. It's just kind of almost like a cliffhanger. And I don't like that. And so most of the movie is just this meandering middle. It's just like kind of people just talking about what might happen, what's going to happen until it finally happens. Um, so yeah, I just can't say the writing did much right to me. I think the writing almost on in every way didn't work for me. Um, I guess it's the one thing I can say is it's not like an incoherent mess like a Neil Breen or a like a Tommy Wiseau type movie, but that's about all that I can say that positive about the writing, which is not very much. And I know a lot of people like this movie, and I'm sorry to those of you who do. I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I'm just trying to say what I saw, and I'm trying to talk about the filmmaking. If you think something is I'm saying is incorrect, I mean I'm willing to discuss it politely and respectfully. But I want to talk about specific things. If you like the movie and you don't care about this stuff, I'm happy for you. But that's not what I'm here to do. Um, anyways, sorry, I'm a little all over the place. But anyways, the acting is also I found pretty inconsistent, very inconsistent. Thornton, Thornton, I think is how you say his name. He's very animated. He's doing, he's silent, so he has to do a lot of physicality. Uh, LaVera, I wasn't sold on her initially, but she brings a lot of sincerity that actually gave me something to care about. But everyone else, I felt very amateur. Like it just, they're not. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it, but they felt very forced. They felt very unconvincing to a point where I was kind of surprised to be seeing a movie of this quality in a movie theater. Um, but yeah, Thornton and LaVera balance that out well enough that I guess it's okay. I don't know. So, anyways, I think Terrifier 3 actively repels emotional investment. There's just nothing. There's nothing really here to latch onto. It really is just viewers waiting for the next uh, bit of gore, and I and that's it. So, anyways, technically, I think Terrifier 3 also feels mostly cheap. I really felt, I know this is a low budget movie, and I think some low budget movies are much better at hiding that. This one felt like something you'd see on like the Sci Fi Channel, or, like I don't see much difference between this and like Sharknado, really. Um, its direction doesn't really have a cohesive tone. It tries to do camp, but then it does this self serious lore, and it's just kind of like I don't know what it's doing other than I don't think it knows what it's doing other than the gore. It's trying to do a lot of different things, and it just kind of feels like a heap of different ideas. Uh, the cinematography has a couple interesting shots, like there's a split diopter shot But other than that, it's very basic and often drab. Like it's underlit. There's a lot of dark shots that I know are like common in horror movies, but I gotta call it out every time I see it. But yeah, also the framing most of the time is pretty just standard and even a little uninspired. The editing I found very monotonous. It doesn't have any sense of momentum or structure or pacing. It's just kind of happening, and I don't know why this movie is over 2 hours long. Or like this movie could be 90 minutes easily. Um, People only care about the gore anyways. Um, the sound has violence and stings and just a few distortions, but I do think it goes overboard sometimes and gets kind of grating with how like stingy it is. It, the movie is tiresome, and I think the sound kind of adds to that. The music has very generic scoring, in my opinion, but there are these juxtaposing Christmas songs that I think work well. It's a good use of Christmas songs in a horror movie. It's a good move. Um, the production design, it has the marketable villain costume. I think this character Art the Clown is becoming, you know, kind of a household name, at least with horror fans. But besides that, this movie looks low budget. It looks like the sets are very confining. The the locations are not convincing. Um, it all just kind of feels like they this is the best they could get kind of situation. The cast is not famous. There's no fame. Thornton is a good fit, and he might continue to gain fame from this franchise. But I think it. Other than him, and everyone's replaceable. The effects, on the other hand, are the centerpiece of the movie, indisputable. They create a lot of visceral gore, and I really appreciate that it's tangible, it's prosthetic and makeup. There's no CGI that would have completely undermined everything. I think this movie, the effects are basically carrying this franchise. And, I don't think they're always convincing, but they're always visceral, and I appreciate that. So yeah, all that is to say that I think Terrifier 3 is a one-trick pony. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're into gore, then yeah, it has it. I think it's a lot of work on the viewer's part to get to the gore. All the stuff in between was pretty tedious. But if you're not in the gore, I don't think there's anything here for you. So yeah, I'm happy that this little thing is independent movie is breaking out. I'm happy for the people that like this movie, but I I had trouble sitting through it. It was pretty grueling for me. And if you're like me and you feel the way I do about movies, then I don't think there's much here uh, for you. But again, if you like gore, it's got it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.